Well, we're on the couch having a conversation.
These are couch
Couch
conversations.
conversation.
And today's topic, we were talking about scheduling time away from your partner.
Yes. Don't do it.
No?
No, you definitely should.
Oh.
It's necessary. Well, it depends on the dynamics of the relationship, I'd say. You definitely should have time with the fellas. Women definitely should have time with the lady friends. Um, yes.
What would you say to people that are insecure about letting or encouraging their significant other to do that? Like scheduling it versus just being spontaneous.
I think it's necessary to schedule it. But it's also necessary to be spontaneous. You gotta have a good, healthy balance of the two. The thing is that you have to have trust within your relationship for that spontaneous one to pop off. Because if you're not, then you know some people just wig the fuck out. Like, where you going? Why you going there? With who for what? And all that shit. And yeah. What about you?
I think it's absolutely necessary, for sure.
Look at
I
your eyelashes. I just want to lick your face.
don't lick my face. I I think that it is necessary and important to. I'm just gonna start over there. I think it's necessary and important to schedule time away from your significant other, whether it's a hobby, whether it's connecting with your peers or your people. I think it does require trust, regardless.
Facts.
But I also think it requires trusting yourself and
Facts.
confidence. Because if I know that I've chosen the right person, you going away from me, I shouldn't automatically think that you're up to no good.
Facts. Facts.
So, but I think if I have trust issues that I haven't resolved, or I'm concerned about our connection, or are you the right person for me, or am I trusting myself to get into some foolishness when you're gone? Like, I think if you have those unresolved issues, it'll be impossible for you to conceptualize. Yeah. Let you go have fun, and I'll see you get home.
You can't be insecure, period, inside of a relationship. If you are, then that time away from each other will create more conflict. I think it's important for guys to have time where they do male bonding with one another. And by male bonding, I don't mean going to the strip clubs and just drinking and smoking and shit like that. But actually sitting back and having engaging conversations with one another. But I will say this, another thing that's important for men is to have a safe space where they can go on their own to recalibrate themselves. If you look at Carl Jung, where he talks about the king, magician, the warrior, and the lover, part of the magician energy is for a man to have a space to transform. So he needs time to get away by himself, for himself, to recalibrate himself.
For sure.
Women, I think it's important for them to come together, for them to not be with their mate, to go and talk with other women, because women naturally are external processors. So they need to go and be around other women to talk about. But at the same time, you can't be around a whole bunch of nagging ass bitches either, because if you go around a whole, I should have said that.
Can I yes and?
Yes, and
so to your point, I think you have to guard yourself as a woman against other women who are
bitter bitches
in a space that's not conducive to your relationship. I can't listen to a woman who has not done what I've done or experienced my experiences, or is in a mental space that I can resonate with. Right. If men are evil and horrible creatures and all you've experienced is trauma, unless you are a bit elevated and you are vibrating on a higher frequency to understand that was your past, but that's not something that you necessarily need to pass forward to somebody, if that makes sense. Like I might have negative experiences in the past, but I can speak to the positive and to the challenges of that situation to give advice to another woman.
Right.
Versus saying, from my experience being XYZ, all men are XYZ. So being able to be objective in your advice when you're communicating with women and being able to only take pieces of what information applies to your life. What would we suggest are 4 tips
Okay.
to give couples who are trying to navigate time away from each other? One, before we even get to the tips, I'd say if it's something that you already do, make sure it's intentional.
Facts.
You know, if you're, everybody should have time away, and why that's important is not only to transform as a man and to get, community as women. We appreciate each other when we do have some time apart.
Facts.
Being able to communicate and test your communication when you're not always around each other, foster that trust. I think it's a trust exercise. Even though I'm not anticipating negative things or assuming negative things, when we're away from each other, I'm excited when we can get back together. Like I'm thinking about you and thinking about, oh, well, I thought of something cool. I know he's doing something right now. I won't text him just yet, but I can't wait to talk about this when he gets home. Or, you know what, let me send this quick text message. What do you think about this? And it's nice to hear from each other throughout the day, but in the space of just scheduling time away and being intentional with it, I think, at least in our experience and my experience with you, when we do have those concentrated times apart, we always come back. And this is a part where I can say always, because we always come back with some tips or some nuggets that we didn't know before.
For sure.
So whether it's like a business idea or, a relationship thought, or, what, this happened while I was away and I wanted to see how you felt about it, or this concept came up and I wanted to just verbalize my appreciation because you don't do that. And thanks, so whatever the case may be. But what do you think are 4 tips that we could give couples?
4 tips
that to keep in mind when they are scheduling or even approaching the conversation of scheduling time away.
I can speak one from the guy's perspective, to make sure, like you said, that your time away is intentional, but that you are spending time with men who will better you. Like she said, just not being around people that's negative Nancy's all the time, but actually contribute to your life.
Absolutely. I think that goes for women and men. That's a great first tip. Good job.
Bang.
Perfect. I like that. Okay, 2, I'd say another tip is make your time productive. Make your time productive.
Make your time away from each other
productive. Yeah, whether it's self-care. Yeah. If it's ladies going to get, your hair or your nails done, or a massage, or some quiet reading time at a cafe, or spending time shopping, whatever fulfills you and whatever kind of gives you joy, even if it's not with other women or with other friends, do something that impacts your day in a positive way. And for guys, if it's going to watch a game or working out at the gym or working on a car, reconnecting with your dad or your uncles or the guys that are in your life, making sure that it's intentional. I would say that, and it would be not intentional. Sorry, that's your first one. That it would better your life in some way.
Facts.
What's a good third one?
A good third tip that I would say on when couples go away is to let that time away be time away. Meaning, like she say, some people, if I walk out the door, she's not immediately texting me and stuff like that. Like, we are apart, and as hard as it is sometimes to not text her something that's on my mind, it's also just as important. Like, sometimes it is like you text her, hey, I was thinking about you, boom. Or when you do text, make sure that the text is intentional. I was thinking about you. But other than that, stay the fuck away and be away. You know what I'm saying? Like, quit. You know what I'm saying? Like, be away and enjoy being apart from each other. There you go.
To add to that, to build on that.
Yes, and
to build on that, I think that's a form of control. When the person, when the spouse or the boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever it might be, goes away, and the other person's immediately, where you at, what you doing, where you, like, trying to continue that conversation. It's like, you know what, talk to me while I'm back.
And they texting the whole time that they're away. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, let them be away. Like, if I'm gone, let me be gone. I don't necessarily bother me unless it's something important. Like,
and not expecting an immediate text back. And I think that's something that I had to kind of get over, because I'm used to fast communication. Like, in my profession and like working in film and things like that, like, communication's got to be quick and it's got to be concise and to the point. So even in our communication, we don't talk about a lot of frivolous things. Like, we'll have our moments where we're kind of goofy and we enjoy each other. We live. But like, when I think in past situations, if the person did not text me back, like, rather quickly, and I knew they weren't doing anything, I would kind of take offense. And I can admit that. Like, I'd be like, and I had to think about, like, why was that? And for me, it wasn't necessarily wanting to control them. It was me being used to that kind of communication. And my kind of communication being the only kind of communication that was acceptable. So I realized, like, I was punishing people for not talking and speaking and communicating the way that I communicate, which is stupid. So I had to recalibrate my shit. I did. I did that.
What's the fourth?
And then the fourth, recap.
Recap what you did when you was away?
No, not necessarily recap what you did, like a hey, so I saw Todd or I saw Rebecca, we drank wine. But I think that's a great communication way to reconnect. Like, we've been apart for so long, or however long it was. Just a high level, a Reader's Digest version of how your time away was. I think that will help the person feel close to you and to foster some communication, because who knows where those conversations go. And kind of back to my point before, it's like, whenever we do reconnect, there is vibrant conversation around our time away. Whether it's, well, how was your trip, or how was your, your appointment, or how was your, time with the guys. It's like, yeah, we had a great time, like, blah, blah, blah. And that's that. I'm not
We got to a bar fight. It was awesome.
Never happened. That I know of. That wasn't in the recap. That must have not been in the recap.
I haven't gotten into any good bar fights lately, but,
Let's keep it that way. We got things to do. But yeah, I think recap was a good one. A good fourth and final one. Because also, I think for couples that might be experiencing insecurities, that might be a way to help manage those. If I'm using myself as an example, if I've been gone for a girl trip over the weekend, now mind you, I doubt that we wouldn't communicate over the weekend. Oh, that's Manasia. They can see.
I saw you.
I saw a little red thing go by. Come on over, Nay.
Big Nay.
So we've been talking, and this is our couch conversations. This is Manasia. She is a senior in high school.
Big Nay.
And she's great. Great communicator, by the way, too.
Great.
So maybe you can give our fourth and final tip, Nay.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah, right? I'm like, maybe we'll do 5. We did 4 with recap. So how about fifth and final tip? When couples are scheduling time away from each other, what would be your suggestion to help them kind of get that together and keep that alive, or to how to manage it and navigate it? What's something they should do?
I guess you could get together and unwind and talk about what you did.
Yep, that's what we just said.
We recap.
Yeah. Okay.
That was dope. See, we're on page right there with that one.
It's a very good idea to recap. Make sure everyone's on the same page and see if the other thing that something you might have done might be interesting to the other person.
So maybe a fifth one, and I'm just spitballing here, could be a pre-cap.
A pre-cap.
Like, maybe like before you go out, you guys sit, have a drink. Like, yo, this is a little bit of quality time that we go spend together before I go out with the homies.
I like that. Yeah. I think, that just made me think, yes, to build on that.
Yes, and.
That's the word. That's the phrase that pays. I think for people that might be in the space of insecurity, when you go from go, work, kids, whatever, and then it's like, my man's going to with the boys. It's like, well, dag, I don't have my time. I didn't get my time with you, and now you're off going somewhere else. Like, I think not being able to verbalize that can cause that insecurity.
Yeah.
So I think your idea of a pre-cap or like a, hey, you know what? Let's watch a movie. Let's go to dinner because tomorrow night I'm going to be out for however long. So yeah, I think that's a great addition.
Yeah. There we go.
Yes. Yes.
First of the couch conversations.
Thank you. So thank you for joining us
Facts.
for our first couch conversation.
BLE, gang, gang.
BLE and the Black Love Experiment, where we
Facts.
ask the question, what happens if we just love the way we want to love?
Yeah. That's it. That's all I was going to say is yeah.
Yes, and.
Yes.
So
and.
until next time, we'll see you guys around. Stay great and follow us on all of our social media channels at the Black Love Experiment on Instagram, Facebook, and at the blackloveexperiment.com.
And the YouTube channel too.
YouTube channel.
What's the YouTube?
Well. The Black Love Experience.
Okay, yep. BLE, gang, gang.
Did you just pop your collar?
Yes, that was.
Yeah, I love that.
So,
you know what's crazy? Because she said, like, ain't nobody always this, right? If you ever pay attention that always and never are two words that almost, always, or never apply.
Yeah.
Like, always, like that's a good way that arguments start between couples is using those two terms, always and never. You never do this and you always do that.
Right.
When that's never the case.
Right.
It only applies when you're talking about never and always. Then you be like, never is always and always is never or something like that. But.
That's, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just said, like, never applies.
You're right. It doesn't. It doesn't.
But sometimes it applies.
Yes.
But not always.
Not always.
That's what I'm saying.
You are absolutely correct.
Yes, and.
Yes, and. So I think I would say let's way.
Right.
With properly calibrated communication. How do you feel about that?
I can feel that.
Properly calibrated communication. And then the fourth